Hello, my name is Pat Simone from Fresno, California, the San Joaquin Valley. Today I will be interviewing Tricia Blattler from the Tulare County Farm Bureau. She's a professional and provides great information and excellent responsibilities for our food and our culture. Hello, Tricia. I'm glad to have you. Why don't you tell us who you are and where you came from and what you've been doing and about the Tulare Farm Bureau.
Great. Well, my name's Tricia Stever Blattler. I've been the executive director for nearly 14 years at Tulare County.
Yeah.
I actually have almost 21 years under my belt with the Farm Bureau.
Wow.
I was planning to be a high school ag teacher and pursued that dream and taught briefly right after grad school. I'm a proud Mustang from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Wow.
But Tulare County is home for me. I grew up in Exeter.
Yeah.
My father worked in a packing house, packing fresh fruit.
Which packing house?
He was the manager of the Pinkham Properties packing house, which is no longer in business, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I have 4 generations of family that worked in that same packing shed.
Wow.
So great-grandparents, grandparents, my dad. I worked there a little bit as a young adult myself.
That's great. So work ethic.
A lot of tree fruit in our background. We lived on a couple of the Pinkham family ranches when I was a little girl.
Wow.
And my grandfather built and repaired the machinery that were inside the packing houses, like nail machines and box making
I'm very
machines.
familiar with those, yes.
Back when wood was the primary, material used for all the fruit boxes.
Yeah, boxes, pallets.
He repaired all that equipment and built the litters and the conveyance systems in a lot of the old packing houses all the way back through the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Wow.
Really until cardboard kind of came in and replaced all the wood box material.
So he did that through the 60s?
Yep. He retired. The business kind of closed down in 76.
Wow.
And that was kind of really when corrugated cardboard really became the primary source of material for the fruit sheds.
Now, what was his name?
My grandfather was Lauren Stever. Stever is my maiden name.
Yeah, now I've got it.
And he worked in sheds from Bakersfield to Lodi, repairing nail machines, box machines, helping customize equipment.
Oh, yeah.
And then really my father continued that trade, even though cardboard kind of began to dominate the industry after that.
Right.
My father went to work for the Pinkham family in 76. Really, just like I said, as my grandfather was kind of retiring and closing out his business. And my dad, David Stever, became the packing house manager there at Pinkham Properties until the early 90s. So he was there a pretty good length of time. He also had grown up working in that shed as a young adult, teenager, and then a young man. So a lot of family connections to the tree fruit industry.
Oh, yeah.
Exeter is largely tree fruit and citrus.
Absolutely.
And used to be the emperor capital.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a few questions about that. From your website and everything, I was looking at it, and you've got a gross production of 7.5 billion, or is it more now?
That number's pretty close.
Yeah.
Fresno County, Tulare County, and Kern County have been the 3 counties that have really been pacing themselves, and we all vie for that kind of first, second, third spot ranking. And we normally all come in within a few $100,000 of one another. So it's a very tight, spread.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
And we're right about 7.5 billion based on the last crop and livestock report.
See, now, I've done a lot of business with your citrus belt. And you understand that. You're looking at Lindsay, California. We're talking about California, of course, for people who don't understand. But Lindsay, Exeter, Porterville, Woodlake.
Correct.
It's just a big belt of citrus. And I've dealt with everybody there. I've sold equipment to them, everybody. And I was amazed that I was out, it's been maybe 12 years, 15 years ago. They still have wood floors. And you were talking about the wood. And I was like, and there's ladies and men doing, in the sorting, they're sorting everything, of course, from bad fruit to good fruit for people who don't understand. And they were standing on all wood floors. And I was like, and equipment was going over and it was making all this noise. And I was like, whoa, is it still like that?
Well, the packing sheds have all been I would say upgraded
Yeah.
and modernized, many times since World War II.
Yeah.
Most of these packing sheds were built in the early 1900s, a
Right.
lot post World War II
Yeah.
when our economy was really booming. And we had a lot of, young men coming back from the war
Yeah.
that were trained in mechanical knowledge. And so these packing houses started going through quite a bit more of mechanization and all that during, the end of World War II and into the 50s and 60s. And then most have, if they've remained profitable and in business, they've had to further adapt. And
Right.
they're certainly trying to make sure that they have worker comfort. A lot of those older historic buildings do still have wooden floors.
I know,
But
yeah.
a lot are also, they've built up catwalks and elevated platforms that their employees stand on.
Sure.
Some of which are more arable graded floors, like metal graded
So
steps.
the juice and everything.
So
Yeah.
fruit material, juice, and you have less slipping hazards. People can get a little bit more airflow around their
Yeah.
workspace. So a lot have tried to make the facilities a more comfortable environment, move a lot more air through the building, keep it more ventilated. I think
Absolutely.
really helps. But you're still having to have human labor stand on a line. 8 to 10 hour shifts,
Yeah.
sorting and grading and making that human visualization of each piece of fruit and decide, is it good? Is it not good? Does it go in a cold
sorting.
choice?
Yeah.
Sorting.
Yeah.
Now, the company my dad's been with for about 25 years is an engineering business that builds all those digital camera boxes
Yeah.
and the equipment that
Yeah, I know
sizes
that.
and sorts
Yeah.
electronically.
You can still.
And that is an amazing technology,
Yeah.
but you still got to have humans behind
Watch-
that equipment.
Yeah, you got to have
running it, watching
technical
it,
knowledge.
all that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to go to school. It's a big deal. Back when I was a child, long time ago, I think I was like 7, and I got upset because my mom had to go to work. She was a stay-at-home mom, and we had farming figs. Okay, and mom went and she learned how to do. She was on the sorting line
Okay.
with all the women.
Sure.
That's
That's predominantly been a female,
deal with
dominated
sorting,
component.
And I was like, what? Because my dad wanted to show me a work ethic. When I was really young, he's like, I'm going to show you why you don't want to be a farmer. And I was like, okay, Dad. So he took me and goes, that's what your mom's doing. I saw my mom out there with all the ladies and the peach fuzz,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
everything on their arms. And I was like, whoa, that is hard work. And they stood there.
For hours and hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a strong person.
Yes, it is.
You have to be and you got to have knowledge too, because these people walk out there and they supervise you, which you're,
Sure. These
you
are
better
skilled.
know.
These are skilled jobs.
Yeah, they're very skilled.
Yep.
And
I knew after one day of grading persimmons that it was not.
you did persimmons?
Yes,
Yeah.
our shed. I mean, the shed that my dad worked in, I worked in. Did some table grapes, persimmons, plums, peaches,
Yeah.
and nectarines. And I knew after a very brief stint on the grading table that was not the occupation I wanted to aim for in life. But I have the most admiration and respect for the hard work that those
Absolutely.
men and women do every day.
Absolutely. I was like, whoa, mom's doing. Well, he had me picking figs when I was 12, and I was like, man, I don't ever want to do this again. It's 105 out here, and I'm on my knees. That was the hardest work I've ever done in my life. And, he wanted to show me when it worked, just like you.
Sure.
And I have, it's funny, my dad met President Nixon when he came down. Nixon was running for president early 60s. And my dad, they were a big deal with the farming deal. And my dad, being the kind of gregarious guy he was, he got in and he met Nixon here in Fresno when he, was campaigning. And I've got pictures of my dad and Nixon together, and the Fresno Bee actually wrote a column. I don't like the Fresno Bee, but they wrote a column back then about my dad meeting Nixon. Well, he made an arrangement with Nixon. He started sending figs to the White House.
How neat.
Personally. The President Bee, it was called something else back then, but yeah, they ran an article that he was selling. And he, we had a place called Klein's Restaurant. I don't know if you've ever heard of it out here. And all the farmers used to go around the round table, and my dad sat on it. and he had to have his picture up there with Nick's.
I bet.
That was
That's
his
exciting.
own thing. But that's a neat story.
Sure.
That people, and my dad passed away, and I got his pictures. And that's the only thing I wanted. Because it mattered so much to him.
Sure.
That he was like, look, I sent figs to the White House.
That's pretty cool.
That was pretty something. Getting back to your Farm Bureau, milk.
Number one commodity.
Number one commodity.
Not only in our county, but really in California.
Absolutely.
It tops the list year in and year out.
Yeah. Now tell me, I looked at it and it said 1.6 billion.
Billion with a B.
Yeah. And that's in your county.
That's just Tulare County's milk production.
And you're the largest.
We are.
Okay. Now, I remember something about California having 10,000 dairies or something like that. Am I even close to that? Or
not now.
Okay. Yeah. That's what
Sadly,
it's been a while.
Sadly, the dairy industry has consolidated greatly. I don't know that I could give you a statewide number of current production dairies, but I can give you an example that we had well over 300 dairies 25 years ago just in Tulare County. And I would say today our dairy footprint is less than 240 dairies.
So you've lost,
at least 100 plus small dairies. The small dairies that were milking, 250 to maybe 750 cows are just not a size that is a sustainable dairy business footprint any longer.
Yeah.
The air quality regulations and the water quality regulations have basically run the small dairies out of business in California.
Yeah.
The average size dairy, particularly in counties like Tulare, here in the belt of the San Joaquin Valley, have to be milking more like 1,800 cows to be viable financially. And they've got to also diversify and have some other crops to fall back on as well.
Because the cows have to eat.
Cows have to eat.
And drink.
A lot.
Yeah.
And our dairies do like to grow a big amount of their alfalfa and their silage crops.
Exactly.
They also are a tremendous recycler of a lot of other crops like almond hulls and cotton seed and hulls from peaches. And there's a bunch of other byproducts of other farm commodities that we can recycle and use as feed and bedding for dairy cattle.
Right.
So our dairy industry is one of those really resilient industries that has adapted and found ways to make use of other farm commodities waste and turn it into a usable product to feed our cows and bed and create comfort for our cows.
Yeah. Well, farmers, as you know, and most of us that are in this industry understand otherwise, but our farmers they get the worst rap.
We do. I'm encouraged that this global pandemic, for all the bad that it's created in this last 2 years almost now, it does seem to have a silver lining that I think some of the appreciation and gratitude for farming and the fact that we are an essential industry that worldwide and globally is feeding our country. I think there has been, an increase or at least some uptick in the average consumer's appreciation of what farming does.
Yeah.
And when American Farm Bureau and some of our larger, ag organizations poll the public about words or acronyms or names that they affiliate positively, farmer ranks really high up there.
Absolutely.
People still really respect farmers, like they respect firemen and policemen and women.
So.
And while there has been in the main press a lot of disparaging remarks about those occupations, I truly do think that across America there is still a lot of appreciation and respect, and farmers rank really high up there. We just have to sometimes recognize that the story we tell, we're really good at telling it internally to one another.
Right.
And how do we begin to change that conversation with our more urban communities? And people really care about their food. They're starting to really care about where their food is sourced.
Absolutely.
And is it ethically sourced?
Yeah.
And what does the carbon footprint look like? And if we can figure out how to tell that story to that urban population, I still think farmers are one of the real heroes of our society.
And that's why we're here today. And that's what my objective is with this podcast, is to throw right information from us, expert information, out to the world. Because this is universal, what we're doing.
Sure.
So, that's one of the biggest things. And we'll talk a little bit about the farming and that part of it later. But, so is milk decreasing or increasing?
Well, production of milk, rises and falls with the supply and demand needs.
Exactly.
Fluid milk production, I think, is continuing to be very strong right now. I do not see us in a state of decline.
Yeah.
One of the dilemmas that we faced during the pandemic and the height of the pandemic last year, as schools and government agencies and our, hospitality and tourism sectors like cruise ships and hotels and restaurants, as they were all forced into shutdown, they stopped buying the bulk product that our market relies upon.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of our fluid milk is used by the school systems, the hotel chains, the restaurant industry, the cruise line industry. So when all those sectors stopped buying that product, we actually really did have kind of a glut of extra milk. Overproduction.
Okay.
And the challenge with live animal production is the only way to stop a cow from giving milk is to usually send that cow off to become hamburger.
Ouch.
So dairies have become very nimble. The good dairies, the very progressive dairies, have become very nimble at being able to manage their milk shed, we call it, by also understanding how they cull cattle, how they reduce their herd size in times of oversupply. Sure. They can do some things to dry up cows on a shorter cycle, producing less milk.
Yeah.
Weather also plays a critical role in that. When it is hot, like the extreme heat we're experiencing now here in July, cows give less milk. They are a lot less comfortable in the heat. Their production goes down in the extreme heat.
Yeah. That's
so there's a lot of different factors that drive that. But price, number one, drives how much fluid milk is produced in Tulare County and throughout California. We also send a lot of our fluid milk into other value-added products. A lot of Tulare County's fluid milk goes into dry powder, butter, and cheese products, which have a different shelf life than just fluid milk would have.
Sure.
But also, commands a really strong domestic market. And when the world has kind of opened back up, a lot of those products will go, internationally as well.
Right.
But we've been through a really weird episodic change in the buying habits because of COVID.
Everybody has, and I'm going to say this again. Farmers are the best business people I've ever seen.
Well, they have to be very resilient.
Yeah.
And they have to be able to ride out a lot of volatility.
They've got to know. First, you start with the weather. Then you start with the animal, vegetable, mineral, whatever you're dealing with. And it goes on and on and on. And farmers have to adjust. People think these Wall Street people, big education and everything. These farmers, they're the most educated in what they're doing, hardworking. We talked off mic a little bit, and I was saying that I used to start out at 5 a.m. with farmers, talking to farmers, and farmers don't go to bed until that sun goes down. Right?
They're pretty busy through the spring and summer months.
Yeah,
it is up and down.
Yeah.
A lot of the growers that I visit with day in and day out start their workday at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
They're trying to beat the heat.
Oh, yeah.
And they're starting a lot of their workers that early in the morning and trying to stagger that some of those workers and those outdoor occupations are done by 11 or 12 in the day.
Absolutely.
Because the highest heat starts in the early afternoon to the mid to late afternoon. And those guys are hustling, from early in the morning till normally the sun goes down at night. So those guys, our farmers tend to put in 12, 14, 18-hour days a lot.
Right. Now, we were talking about citrus. I guess tangerines have entered the market.
Mandarins in general,
because they're easy to peel.
Yeah, that's the marketing.
Deal.
That's the big marketing gimmick. For over a decade now, the tangerine, mandarin, easy to peel, small fruit, market has really exploded.
Yeah.
The family, families like it. It's easy to put in your kids' lunch boxes every day as they go off to school. It's not nearly as cumbersome to peel and deal with all the drippy juice of a traditional navel orange, which I still think tastes fantastic.
Love those. Yeah.
But yeah, the tangerine market has really exploded in the last decade, and the mandarin plantings all across the valley have really jumped. There's a tremendous amount of acreage that's been transitioned from traditional navel or Valencias over to mandarins and tangerines, tangelos,
there's a whole bunch
Murcots. There's all kinds.
Right.
And all the interesting little brands that you're hearing developed. A lot of our big citrus packing families have their own proprietary name. Halos, cuties, sweeties, pixies.
Yeah, I know.
Those are all tangerines, different forms of mandarins that are being marketed under a proprietary name to a certain company.
Yeah, that's excellent. I looked and I didn't understand until I was corrected by one of your cohorts, but I said, what's going on? Your citrus has really gone down. And it's like, no, they take and they divide the navel oranges from the others.
Right. When you look at
two different production numbers.
When you look at a crop report in any of the San Joaquin Valley counties where citrus is grown, they split traditional oranges like navels and Valencias. But navels are considered the orange that everyone used to eat as their primary table fruit. And then you had Valencias that were more known as a juicing orange, right? When you separate out navel and Valencia production, then you come up with this whole specialty group of all the tangerine products and lemons and grapefruits and other specialty like the Buddha's hand and citrons and limes. Even all those specialty fruit normally command their own separate record keeping in our crop report. So when then you aggregate together the mandarin production with the traditional orange production, and then you add those specialty fruits in, lemon, limes, grapefruits, it's a lot bigger number overall.
Yeah, see, people don't understand, everyone thinks, I get my food at Costco. No, your food doesn't come from Costco, okay? It comes from us.
That's right.
Okay, and without us, you have no food at Costco, okay?
That's right.
So with that said, it's like, pay attention to, where your food comes and support us, because it starts with us. And it goes to a distribution center, which is huge, and then they distribute it to stores. But look at your packaging, look where your fruit came from, because it came from, more or less, it came from here. But I saw something interesting, and I'm pretty sure, and I'd love you to clarify it, but I saw nurseries products they've dropped. Now, is that because of the weather?
I think the nursery and horticultural industries have had to also reinvent themselves a lot in the last couple decades.
Yeah.
You have a real consumer focus towards going to more drought-tolerant plantings.
Sure.
You have home builders that are also being mandated to figure out ways to do more xeriscaping in new developments. A lot of native plants that are being used to try and thwart, plants that would normally require a lot of water being replaced with plants that need less water.
Right.
The sod and turf industries have had to also recognize that the synthetic turf industry has commanded a big chunk of the California market space. So when you look at some of the big nurseries like the Monrovias of the world, and we have a Monrovia facility in Tulare County that is a big employer, 4, 5, maybe 600 employees at their peak time of year.
Yeah.
And they're an entirely container-based facility, meaning every plant that leaves their facility is in a container. It might be in a 1 gallon or a 5 gallon or a 20 gallon bucket, but it leaves in a container, and that's for disease reasons and quality control reasons. The marketplace is changing because consumers are recognizing that they can't always afford to buy some of that plant material that is more water intensive. So, I think there's just an overall shift, and there is a change in the buying habits of California consumers towards plant material. And they can go down to their retail nurseries like a Lowe's or, a Home Depot nursery, and they can buy product that unfortunately gives beautiful color, looks really great for a short period of time, but if they don't nurture that plant, is gone in a few weeks or a few months.
Right.
And that is kind of part of the business model for most nurseries, is that they recognize that a lot of people are going to kill their plants in the short term.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to constantly be replacing them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of markup in those retail nurseries.
Absolutely.
But I think overall, the horticultural sector has had to recognize that just as Californians are getting more particular about their food choices, they're also getting more particular about their landscaping choices, what they plant in their front yards, their backyards, how much water that takes. And the development and builder community is also having to make those choices because they're being mandated on, how much solar they build into new properties. Drought resistant plantings and greenscapes for walking. They're being incentivized to add, walking communities between their houses that don't require green belts with a lot of water usage. And so all those things contribute to a really shifting and dynamically, fast movement within the horticultural sector to respond to that change in demand.
Yeah. Now, I noticed when I was looking through your website, and we'll get to that, so you can tell everybody where you came from, but you have board members in sections. Okay?
Right.
What is that about?
Tulare County Farm Bureau has for forever. I mean, we're over 105 years now in the making, and I want to say for at least 50, 60 years, our board has been set up by the same supervisorial boundaries that our county supervisorial boundaries adhere to. So we apportion our board of directors by those supervisorial districts. So the 5 county supervisorial districts are the same 5 districts that my board is built around. And we take a census count from the county every 10 years after the county updates their redistricting process. We align our map to match their map. And as we go through and recruit for our board of directors, we apportion those directors to those 5 different districts based on population.
Sure.
So the parts of our county that have the greatest number of members get more representation on the board versus another part of the county that has less members. So there's a per capita membership distribution formula that we follow.
I was confused. I was like, I wonder why they do that. There's got to be a good reason for
it. It just helps align our Farm Bureau board with the leadership boundary, and the demographics of our county, so that if our biggest concentration of farmers is in the south and the east side of our county, we make sure that part of our board has the greatest number of representation on our board.
Sure. Now, I also know, and imagine you have information on it, but College of Sequoias.
Yes.
Okay, they have an ag department.
Very strong one.
Good.
College of Sequoias was just awarded one of the outstanding agricultural programs of distinction this year by our California Agricultural Teachers Association.
That's excellent.
It is.
Yeah, that's really
well
excellent.
deserved.
Yeah. Fresno State, College of Sequoias, can't beat it. I mean, you're going to get the best education in probably the world.
All of our local community colleges have a strong agricultural focus. West Hills and Reedley colleges are also great partners here in the South Valley.
Sure.
College of Sequoias is the largest, junior college campus in Tulare County. They not only have a main campus in Visalia, they have a very large, well-developed modern campus that was just built about 12, 13 years ago out in Tulare. It's a agricultural laboratory campus. So it's entirely devoted to making sure that students entering the junior college system there are getting quite a bit of agricultural productivity, production skill, in the making. And we have a great partnership with the COS program. We work with their horticultural program to help keep school gardens funded and robust. And we work with some of the faculty on different partnerships during the year. And we've enjoyed a long, rich relationship there with the Farm Bureau and College of the Sequoias.
Neat. Now, this is my favorite, because it's my industry and everything that I've been doing all my life. But Tulare Farm Show.
Yep, the World Ag Expo.
Devin Nunes, who I'm a big fan of. I'm
local congressman,
I'm
for sure.
I'm a big fan of Nunes.
He's a great friend to the agricultural industry.
Yeah, I think
comes by it very naturally.
Yeah, and it's the biggest in the world.
It is.
Yeah, I'd go there.
Particularly volunteer led.
Yeah, I know. we don't really make, as equipment dealers and manufacturers that represent most of the International Farm Show in Tulare, we don't really make any money. I mean, it's us. We're provide. It costs us about $30,000 just to go out there, and it's more to educate people. But it is immense. It's international. You will see people from all over the world, and you'll hear languages from all over the world.
That is correct. I have the great privilege of serving on the board of directors for the Agri Center.
Yeah.
I'm an ex officio member, but I represent the Farm Bureau and speak on behalf of my organization on their board. The International Agri Center has developed an amazing platform of different programs and services that it offers our community. It's most known for producing what we call World Ag Expo.
Oh, yeah.
And locally, we all still cherish the historical name Tulare Farm Show.
Yeah,
that's
Tulare
what it's
Farm
really
Show.
known by the locals.
Yeah.
But the Expo's been going on now for over 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
It is one of the very largest shows in the globe.
Yeah.
It's particularly well known because while the Agri Center has paid staff that help put the events on, there's only about 25 paid employees at the Agri Center.
I know.
There are 1,200 unpaid volunteers, largely people that are farmers, ranchers, and local business owners who step forth for 4 to 6 months out of every year to don those orange jackets, as we call them. And that orange jacket brigade, which, like I said, is over 1,200 people strong, that's who puts that show on. And that show is millions of acres of square feet of exhibit space, both indoors and outdoors. The regional economic impact of that show is in the billions with a B.
I know.
It's a tremendous economic boost to our local economy and really does bring tourism and commerce in from 60, 70 different countries across the globe.
Yeah. I get a big kick out of it, because there's equipment there that you can look at and you'll never understand. I mean, it is the weirdest looking stuff you've ever seen, and a lot of it really, because I participated in it for so many years and I know so many people who are vendors there, we don't really make a lot of money. Nobody's like, I want to buy that tractor. It's more of an educational.
The show really provides a backdrop for business owners and businesses like equipment dealers to make a connection, right? It's kind of the backdrop that brings together all of that commerce in one place. But the transactions there don't really, create a lot of profit for the vendors that day in that 3-day show.
Absolutely.
But what happens is that piece of commerce comes together, and those hundreds of thousands of show visitors leave with bags full of swag bags full of business cards for a lot of these companies that they will later follow up with and do business with.
People are taking selfies with me and stuff, and I'm like, hey, I can't even speak your language, but
it's kind of the Comic-Con of the farmer equipment world,
it's the geek
right?
show of the farmers.
It's the biggest place to be once every second week of February, where you're going to get to really see all the cutting edge technology within ag.
And I say take your kids, have a great time. There's a lot of great food out there and a lot of information, and you'll really respect farming after seeing it. Now let's get into some serious stuff, and I know you have more to say than anybody about this is water. Okay, so we have we got a really big problem, and it's political, and we all know that, and we pay a huge amount of taxes on our cars and our property and everything. California is known as the tax state of the world and everything, and it's really terrible that these people can't help us, which are we run the San Joaquin Valley for farming, and in Sacramento, we can talk about real quick, the Delta and the Delta fish, and then shutting down the pumps, and there's. Now, you can correct me, maybe it's more or less, but from what I read, there's 45 million acre feet that runs off into the sea. Is that correct, or less, more?
I think depending on what numbers you're throwing into
Right.
that mix,
Yeah.
it could be that number or it could be even more than that number.
I think it is. Okay. I like throwing low numbers out. Okay, because people go 45 million acre feet, and it's like you have no idea how much water that is.
Yeah, I say acre feet is an agricultural measurement of water.
Yeah.
It's sometimes tough for a consumer or average individual that doesn't work in agriculture to know what a million acre feet or an acre foot looks like.
Yeah.
That's where we take an acre of land and volumetrically
Right.
place a whole foot, 12 inches of water deep
And
across that
acres
entire
big.
acre.
Yeah.
So millions of acre feet becomes billions of gallons
Yeah.
of water.
Yeah. People
So when
measure
a-
things in gallons.
Right.
and
When we
not
think
acre
about
feet.
gallons, we
Yeah.
are unfortunately mismanaging California's water systems in a
Absolutely.
way that does not optimize conservation. It does not optimize or prioritize agricultural or public use. It optimizes flow rates, and flow rates mean we're trying to regulate a flow and movement of water from our fresh water systems into what becomes an unusable situation when it flows into a salty ocean.
Sure.
And we know that at this point, most cities are still not in a financial spot to desalinate that water. And why would we want to desalinate water that
Fresh
we already
water.
sent out as fresh water?
Yeah.
If we were really optimizing our management of our water supplies across California, we would have a lot more above ground and off stream storage.
Oh, yeah.
And we would be recognizing that while a majority of the water that falls in the form of precipitation falls in the north, it gets consumed in central and southern California.
Absolutely.
2/3 of the rain falls in northern California. 2/3 of the water demand is in southern and central California.
Okay, now that water, it doesn't come from it. People don't understand either. There could be rain here in California, but if there's a drought in Colorado, we got problems. Okay.
Right. I mean, we have the continental divide that
Right.
basically divides
'Cause the water comes.
water all
right.
drains gravity flow from basically the top of the Colorado Rockies all the way to the Pacific Ocean.
And it supplies Nevada, right? And
Utah,
Yeah,
Arizona,
coming through.
Nevada, California,
Yeah.
Oregon, and Washington. We
Right.
all rely on everything that comes westward from the Rockies.
Now, there was another, what I like looking at is I'm looking at, well, why aren't we doing certain things to mitigate these issues? And one deal was they were talking about the Delta smelt. And, hey, okay, well, why can't we just do fish hatcheries and create more Delta smelt? That was one deal. Then there was a Gadez Valley. Am I pronouncing that right? You may have not even heard about this. This is a good one. Okay, it's an LA. There's an LA company that's in the desert, and they've ultrasound. They've done all this stuff. They bought all this property. They're business people, and they want to supply this water that's in the desert, that's underneath the ground, that's unmeasurable. I mean, you gotta look this stuff. It's unmeasurable. They say it's the size of the Great Lakes, but it's a mile down, and they can pump it. And President Trump came down, and he heard about this, and he did, he's looking at the farmers, and he was pro-farming, and he's like, well, wait a minute. You can, this Gadez Valley and this LA company, they can actually do this. Why aren't they doing this? Oh, well, Newsom had nothing to say about it. He didn't even know what the hell was going on, which I can imagine because he doesn't know what's going on with anything. But they they were going to supply Orange County. They can supply Orange County completely with water from extracting it from the ground, and they're all set up to do it and everything. And they could extract 16 billion gallons or 50,000 acre feet, per year to LA. And, then that relieves the northern. So we even have even more, there's your mitigation of water anyway. And it's just ridiculous. Then another one that I don't know if you're familiar with is raising the Shasta Dam.
Yes.
Okay, 18 feet. And if we did that, we catch more water. And it was something, and I just saw a figure of 600 acre feet of water that we could catch by raising the Shasta Dam. I may be wrong.
It's probably 600,000 acre feet.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I read it wrong. 600,000
That's okay.
acre feet.
Yeah, raising Shasta Dam has been a mission of a lot of our hydrological experts for a long, long time.
Sure.
There's an amazing gentleman that is nearing the century mark down in Tulare County who's been a water engineer, and he has been on that mission for probably 25 or 30 years now.
Yeah.
Raise Shasta Dam.
Simple.
It's a simple solution that where we have these really deep cold water reservoirs. Raise the dam even higher will achieve multiple conjunctive purposes.
Yeah.
It creates even more cold water pools for the fish that need that cold water for their raising of young. It allows greater drawdown and greater fill back up for the needs of managing the flow rates, right? As I said earlier, flow management is the name of the game in California water. And you're right. The reason we don't fix the water problem in California is because it's not a true problem. It's a man-made problem that politics have made worse.
Yeah.
And it is the quintessential football that Peppermint Patty pulls away, or is it Lucy that pulls the football away from Charlie Brown?
I know.
It is the quintessential football that gets yanked out from every politician that's ready to kick that ball.
Yeah.
Every time there's an election cycle, every time there is a fight for who's going to be in the Sacramento Capitol and in the federal Capitol, it's the football that gets kicked or pulled.
I've done very well for myself. Everything, I start stuff from zero and I go on, and I've always done things. And early in my career, reading and everything, I read about this thing called the KISS principle, and it's not Gene Simmons' KISS. It's
keep it simple, stupid.
Okay, and it goes with Occam's razor if you really geeks want to go in deep and get all academic, but it's real simple stuff. And if something simple isn't going on to help people, taxpayers, people that are paying a lot of money a year like us, and provide food. Okay, not Costco, real food that we grow. If somebody is preventing that, is it stupid or is it criminal? Okay, it's not. There's nothing. This isn't gray. This is either somebody's being very stupid or somebody's being very criminal. So it's up to the viewers and people who look at this to understand this. And I'm not saying the Pelosi, Brown, Newsom clan are mobsters or criminal elements, but are they stupid?
No, I think it's all about control.
Well,
water equals power.
That's not
and
good.
Political power and control go hand in hand.
As far as I'm concerned, that's criminal.
I think many listening to your podcast, many here in the Central Valley, share that very conservative view that this is a criminal mishandling of our most precious natural resources in California. The whole intent by the environmental justice community of California, which is ragingly powerful in this state right now, is to try to create equity in the distribution of our natural resources, equity in the distribution of wealth, socialistic concepts that want to even the playing field for everyone out there to have the same access to, wealth and power and water and food as everyone else. Well, in doing that, the only way they can pull that control together is to have control over these most critical natural resources like water.
Right.
And they make this compelling argument that our environmental, demands on water are the most, paramount, when in fact protecting communities and having drinking water for low-income families and water for farms are the most important fundamental building blocks that we need to keep our life sustained anywhere on this planet.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that is why this is such a politically motivated agenda.
Yeah, I hate politics.
It's all about controlling the flow of water.
Yeah.
And the more that gets tied up in a political construct, the less we see movement in the process that's, productive here in the valley.
Absolutely. I mean, let's get some hatcheries, let's get these Mount Shasta built, let's get this water done, and everybody's happy. For some reason, and I don't know what it was, but my father said way back when that he said, the farmers are afraid. I mean, not the farmers. The politicians are afraid of the farmers, and I was always like, "Why?" And they're always against them, and it's not like the farmers are trying to get something over on anybody. What we're doing is we're feeding the world, And hey, you're talking about farting cows and all this crazy stuff. If you go to Costco or if you go to Walmart and you can't put food in your, in your family's table and it's not there, like the toilet paper, you're in a lot of trouble, pal.
I think the pandemic, again, really underscored that the American consumer will panic when there are shortages in our marketplace and are not prepared to understand what a shortage looks like.
Absolutely.
They are very, very expectant and used to being able to go to any market in California or throughout the United States and find an abundance of all those supplies.
Yeah.
So this has been a really interesting year to watch what consumers do when there's scarcity and a shortage of things as essential and basic as toilet paper and other paper products.
Absolutely. You know what? I'd rather have food than toilet paper. I'm sorry to say.
Well, one kind of negates the other.
Yeah,
but
I am too.
Yeah.
It's one or the other, but you better eat, or else you're not going to need the toilet paper.
That's right.
Okay. This is really silly because I did some Google searches on agriculture and stuff, and I came up with I don't know who posted this stuff on Google as far as agriculture and stuff, but it's just elementary the way things are set, and it's almost like you don't want people to be educated. It's these elementary things like, irrigation, pesticide, fertilization, application, crops, cooling soil, frost control. That's what water's used for farming.
Those are all important reasons to use water in farming.
But they aren't explained. They're just, people don't understand what, cooling soil, frost control. They don't understand what that is. It's just like, if someone just reads a word like that, it's like, well, what's frost control? It's like,
right.
You ever hear of oranges? Right.
Well, and I think too, people tend to have a belief that in our own homes as consumers, I turn the water on at my tap. I use that water one time.
Right.
I either use it to wash myself or cook with or clean with, and then it goes down my drain.
Right.
And I don't see it again after that. Right. It goes either into a city sewer system or a septic line if you're out in the country. So we think about water, most humans think about water as something they use once. Every farm is basically its own natural recycling system.
Oh, absolutely.
Because water that's used for frost protection, meaning to warm up the soil and create warmth in the bed of the orchards during the winter months when it freezes hard here in parts of the valley, that water still ends up percolating down into the aquifer, goes back into the ground table of water. It also, as it evapotranspirates and it adds humidity to the air above, which also benefits the sequestration of carbon dioxide and allows trees to do what trees and plants naturally do.
Very true.
Clean the air and scrub it to make more oxygen available for us to breathe.
Absolutely.
Dairies, being Tulare County, I got to say this, dairies reuse their water on average 8 times. So when they turn water on at a tap somewhere, it works on that dairy 7 or 8 times before it leaves the dairy.
Unbelievable.
They use recycled water to clean, the corrals. They flush water down alleyways to create more comfortable bedding and environments for the cattle.
Yeah.
They separate their manure using a recycled water product.
Absolutely.
That water is the hardest working water of anywhere on a dairy.
Yep.
And people tend to think, dairies are mismanaging
Yeah,
water.
they're just throwing
just throwing it away. It's just
throwing it
being
away.
wasted.
No.
Ag in general
They're very efficient.
is the original fundamental recycler of that product.
Absolutely.
And they are sustainably regenerating growth and health of soil and carbon sequestration and tree growth by using that water the way they do.
Absolutely. Here's another one for Mr. Newsom and the Pelosi Brown clan. We have 50. I came up with this because I was looking to buy a car wash at one time, and I did my homework on it. Okay, there's 15 million registered vehicles. Okay, in California, unbelievable. Wow,
A lot of cars here.
Yeah. Okay, so. Okay, I'm going to take a low figure. I'm really good at math, and I always go to low figures. And if the low figure says, "Whoa," we're in that KISS principle again. So 15 million registered vehicles. That's cars. That's not boats. That's not all this other stuff. So the geeks don't have to worry about all that. Okay, the average car wash. Okay, so. They say they recycle. Okay, well, you got to have. I know the guys that fix the recycling stuff, and they aren't doing it. It costs a lot of money to keep it 100%. So, what car washes do is they recycle 10 gallons of water, and they use 10 gallons of new water per car.
Okay.
Okay, so 20 gallons to wash your car. Okay, that 10-gallon recycling is probably 5. Okay, maybe. If it's working 100%, it may get close to 8. No way, 10. That's what it says. Anyway, so you start doing these numbers, and you're going, well, wait a minute. Let's say 7 million cars are washed once a week with 10 gallons of water. How much water is that? It's a lot of water, right?
Sure.
So, Mr. Newsom, why don't you just go ahead and shut down every car wash there is in California and give us some water? or better yet, let's shut down every drive-through because it's polluting the air too much.
Yep.
So
those aren't politically advantageous choices.
No, I don't think shutting
for the governor to make, right?
Yeah, I don't think. I think you'd lose votes, Mr. Newsom, if you're still in.
Well, and the same with why we see such a imbalance of power with cities trying to decide how to reduce their watering, restrictions on consumers. Folks don't like to be told they can't water their lawns, and they can't fill and refill their swimming pools, and that they can't take 15 and 20-minute luxury showers every day. Our California citizenry is not used to having those restrictions placed on it.
Absolutely.
So particularly going into this recall of the governor, you're seeing, that consumer push to make it easier on consumers to want to keep Mr. Newsom where he is.
Yeah.
He's recently relaxed the provision that schools are going to have some decision-making power now about the mask mandate. As parents are just exploding on the conversation.
Absolutely.
So, we all know that a lot of these things are politically driven.
Now, do you have children in school?
I don't.
Okay, yeah, mine either. My son, he's an attorney, and I'm glad. He was the last generation, and his kids told me he was a scholar and on the debate team and everything, and all the way junior high through high school. And his kids had a study session over the house, and I'm like, hey, this is cool, So I'm talking to him. I love talking to young people. And they said, Mr. Simone, and I went, you don't call me, my name's Pat. Anyway, so they said, you had a superior education to us. And I said, are you kidding me? No way, man. You got computers. I mean, I'm a junkie on information. No, and I'm like, what do you mean no? And it's like, no, most of the kids use computers to play games and look up BS on social media and all this, and they don't read about information, and it doesn't get into the school system, and the school systems are really failing. And that his year was, I think, the last. It was after that it just went really downhill, the unified school systems. So I was really grateful that he got his education. He went to Clovis, and and it's just like the education. We'll bring up about agriculture. We're so. It's just a gracious thing that we have such good colleges, and we're internationally recognized. In that industry. Anyway, I'd like to wrap this up. And how do people find you? And all that. You can give me your web address, phone number. And
sure.
Go ahead.
Well, Tulare County Farm Bureau has been in the same location for 75 years.
Yep.
We're located in the heart of Visalia, in kind of a older downtown northeast part of town. In fact, we're one of the oldest properties in the area. Yep. Our stockyard was built there in the 30s. And easy to find us. We're on Ben Maddox Way. Our phone number's 559-732-8301. And easy to find us on the web. Type in Tulare County Farm Bureau, and any search should bring us right up. But our website's www.tulcofb.org.
And please donate. They need help.
Be a member.
I'm a member.
You know what? You don't have to be a farmer to be
absolutely.
A Farm Bureau member.
Yes.
We appreciate memberships from businesses, allied industries, and just folks that care about keeping California farmers farming.
Absolutely.
So there's a membership level for you at any level. We're a lot like a chamber of commerce. Yep. We're there to support business-friendly agricultural, endeavors.
Anyway, I'm very impressed with you and Tulare and everything you've done, and we hope you are serving for many, many more years. I'm Pat Simone, and thanks for watching, and hit that dial. Thank you.